This is the CitizenLink Report.
If you find our insights helpful, would you support our video efforts? Your gift of $25 or more goes a long ways. Covers the crew, lights, cameras, all that. Just click on Donate. Thanks from all of us.
The current talk about immigration reform on Capitol Hill appears to have a lot more to do with campaign strategies than with actually helping families. We'll offer some context. This is the CitizenLink Report. I'm Stuart Shepard along with our president, Tom Minnery. Hi, Tom.
Hello, Stuart.
Let's talk about this issue. It is a touchy one, and we understand there are very strong emotions about this issue. The big question right now, though, is this was supposed to have been dead several weeks ago, but now we're talking about it again. Why is that?
Well, talking years and years. Democrats and Republicans are far apart on the issue of immigration reform. Democrats would like to browbeat the Republicans come election time with their lack of action. Republicans won't go close to the policies that have passed the Democrat-controlled Senate, but they need to be talking about it, so they are, and the beat goes on incessantly.
So we've got Republicans handling control of the House. You've got Senator Harry Reid, the majority leader, over across the way in the Senate. And then you've also got a Democrat in the White House. Is there any chance that these will align in a way that something could be passed that Republicans and Democrats could agree on?
No, there really is no way, for a couple of reasons. One is that the Democrats in the Senate have passed a very comprehensive 1,200-page bill. And in the era of Obamacare legislation, when nobody really knows what's in the details, Republicans are very wary of that, and they have reason to be. A lot of the wording in the Democrat bill is amorphous, and there is amnesty all throughout it. Genuine amnesty, that is to say, forgiveness of for people who have come here illegally. That's a hard one to sell in the conservative community. And
even among conservatives, Speaker John Boehner, House Speaker John Boehner, was giving a speech just in the last few days, and he gave the very distinct impression that folks on his side are not necessarily wanting to follow his lead on this issue. So this thing's fractured many different ways.
Well, it is, and it's the Tea Party influence, which is very harsh on this issue, and I don't see a way forward with it. There are many reasons why the Republicans don't see eye to eye with the Democrats. The obvious reason is that for political purposes, most immigrants would vote Democratic because they're the ones who got the job done and got them here legally. And Republicans are opposed to that, obviously, and opposed to the fact that people who sneak into the country illegally are forgiven for that. And so you can see at a very basic level why this is such a difficult issue.
Let's talk some more about the differences. You mentioned that the Senate has passed a bill. Republicans have quite a few different bills, is my understanding, in the House. What are the significant differences between the 2 points of view?
Well, one is that what I mentioned is amnesty, and that is to say that those who are here, who have been here prior to 2012, can have special status should this bill, the Democrat bill, become law. They can get status that leads to a green card, which is legal permanent residency, which leads to citizenship. And the Republicans are saying, well, not so fast. Shouldn't there be penalties? Well, yes, back taxes have to be collected, the Democrats say. Well, the Republicans say, what do you mean? People who have been here illegally are not filing tax returns. We don't know what income they made years and years ago because they're working for cash. And so this is silly. You can't collect these things, and you're going to, down the road, just forgive these debts anyway, aren't you? And the Democrats say, well, of course we're not. But nobody believes that. And, and the border security provisions, which are very important for a lot of people, are not very solid in the Democrat bill. For example, it says that adequate border protection has to be begun, and a special border commission that will be created has to certify that it has begun and it is proceeding. And then within a certain amount of time after that, this provisional status can be granted, allowing people to stay. So when Republicans say, let's do one thing at a time, it makes some common sense. Let's protect the border. When the border is protected and everybody agrees that the border is protected and it can be done, then we will go on to status for those here illegally, and we'll consider that. And by the way, we'll also reform our visa entry requirements, because lines now for those who try to get into the country simply do not move. That is all clogged. Republicans would like to clean that system up, and that's a problem because Democrats have union constituents, and big labor does not like the idea of cheap labor being allowed into the country on a large scale that would meet the needs. So the Democrats don't like that. And so on and on and on it goes.
Now, up to this point, mostly that's all been analysis. Here's the lay of the land. Here's where everything is. Now I want to get your opinion. If you were to craft a bill, if you were to put together legislation to deal with some aspects of this issue, what to you would be key elements of that kind of legislation? What needs to be in there? Well,
we've done that at Focus on the Family a couple of years ago. Working with the board of directors, we came up with some fair standards that we think ought to be in a reform proposal. And one of them would be keep families together through this long, drawn-out visa process. It's heart-wrenching to know how long wives are disconnected from their husbands during the entry period and children from their parents. Keep families together. A second provision would be that laws ought to be enforced fairly against employers in this country who willingly hire people that they suspect are here illegally without checking credentials. That has to be ended, that practice of winking at employers who hire workers illegally. And I mentioned before, get the visa lines cleaned up so that lines actually move, so people will have an inducement to get into those lines. And then, of course, protect the border, certify that the border is protected. That seems reasonable to us. And finally, the fifth one, and this is where all the cards get thrown up in the air and all of the controversy comes. Now, we have said create a path to legal status for those who are here and who are willing to come forth, admit their crime, and pay a penalty. We have not said anything about citizenship, but we want people to own up to their crime and make restitution for that. We think that should allow people to be able to avoid deportation. Well, that has also been called amnesty, and we've been labeled with that unfairly, I think, because the word amnesty, Stuart, comes from the same word, the same root as the word amnesia. Amnesty means that we forget your past problems, your past crimes. Requiring people to pay for them as people pay up for other crimes they commit, make restitution for what they've done wrong. That is acceptable in American society, but as it all gets labeled amnesty, 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 and people are not willing to look any deeper than that, our proposals aren't going forward either. And you understand why people are upset, because this has been a problem that has festered for so long. It's been highly politicized, and people are just disgusted by it.
Yeah, and understandably, we know that there are a lot of different attitudes about this, a lot of different perceptions, a lot of different ideas. As you encourage our viewers to make their way through this landscape, what's your encouragement to them as they try to take a reasonable approach, a Christian approach to this issue?
Stuart, I think that most people who sneak across this border do not do so because they want a vacation. They sneak across the border because their families are destitute, their work life is hard, and they look for a better future for their families. That has been the story of America. That's why people want to come here. And it is always true, and it's our political establishment that has not kept up and solved the growing problem of this country being a guiding light for many people. And so people need to calm down and understand that solutions can come, but as long as politicians browbeat others with it, we're not going to get to solutions. So in the problem is the promise of America that draws so many people. That promise is alive, and that should cause people to take heart. This is still a country worth trying to get to. And those who want to preserve it as such need to work patiently and listen carefully to those who propose solutions to the problem.
Very good. Tom, thank you for your insights. Very helpful. And thank you for watching. We always appreciate hearing from you. You may write to us at mail@citizenlink.com. Pray for our elected officials as they try to figure out how they're going to attempt to do something on this issue. Pray that they will have wisdom and that they will keep in mind the families who are involved in this, who are split often across borders. And remember, stand tall and be heard.